everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Ali and I've been taking you on a journey about all of the jobs I've had since I left school. And you may be pleased to know that this is the final episode in this series of how many jobs have I had and how difficult it is to choose a career. So in the last video, you may remember that I was working for a pub retailing business as a HR administrator, and it was a fixed term contract. So I left there and so I went to work for a company called Deuce and Babcock. I think they've changed their name since then, but at that time they were called Deuce and Babcock. And I went as I got a job as a senior administrator working in the resourcing department. So Deuce and Babcock provides construction and project design and plant maintenance, among other things, to the global oil, gas and petrochemical industry. So what I was actually doing at Deuce and Babcock as a senior administrator was working in the resourcing department. So that department resourced welders that would then be deployed to work at plants in the UK and also the rest of the world. So it was a very interesting job. I spoke to a lot of different people on the phone, a lot of welders, got to know a lot of people, and I had a lot of communication with people within the company. I was also involved in the apprenticeship program that they ran. They ran quite a big apprenticeship program back then. And so I got involved in that. So my main duties working as the senior administrator in the resourcing department was booking the welders in for their qualification. So they would come to the welding school in the West Midlands and they would do their qualification. So that would be my role, to book them in for that, and then pay any expenses that were due to them. So I also made sure that their qualifications and all of their documents and paperwork was up to date. So this involved a lot of filing as well. Obviously a lot of communication on telephone, a lot of communication with the training school. And then I also did the payroll. So obviously had to make sure that they were paid correctly and on time. With regards to the apprentice side of the job, this would involve again, a lot of communication with different departments within the company and also with the assessors. So it would involve attending the recruitment days, answering a lot of queries on the day, then doing some interviewing with the prospective apprentices, and also some communication backwards and forwards, some letters, that sort of thing, sending out information. And then making sure that their workbooks, once they started and they started their training, making sure that their workbooks were up to date. So that involved a lot of filing and again, supporting the assessors and making sure that all of the correspondence was completed and then filed correctly. So I did really enjoy this job and I had high hopes of staying there a long time and having a career there. But unfortunately, things happened that were beyond my control and we're not going to get resolved, basically. So I decided that after, I think I worked for them for 18 months, I decided that I would have to leave Deuce and Babcock and find another role. But what role? I didn't know where to go from here. So I actually went to see a recruitment agency and I spoke to them and we talked at length about all of my interests and what I enjoyed doing in a job. And they eventually found a job for me, which was working as a personal assistant to a managing director and also doing some HR administration work as a side to that. To help the HR manager. So I took the job and I left Deuce and Babcock. I mean, I did meet some lovely people at Deuce and Babcock who I am still in touch with, which is nice. So yes, I left Deuce and Babcock and I went to work for a small manufacturing business about 7 miles from where I live. So it wasn't too far away and nearer than Deuce and Babcock was. So that was better. It was more money. And so I went into the job again with high hopes that it was going to be my job of dreams, maybe at last. So as I say, this company was a small manufacturing business in the West Midlands again, and I was working as a PA to the MD. So as a PA, it involves a lot of organising things, and as I really enjoyed organising things, I still do enjoy organising, that was really good because it was a major part of the role. So I would organise meetings and send out all of the meeting invitations, and I would organise events and organise purchasing new company cars, and also organise the maintenance of these cars. The job was really, really varied. And as I say, I was also helping the HR manager with some administration, HR work, which I absolutely loved. And really, it was at this point that I began to realise how much I loved doing human resources. So just wanted to say human resources in case anybody doesn't really know what HR is, but hopefully you do. So because before, when I've been at the pub retailing business, it was a slightly different kind of HR. This job involved employees who worked in a warehouse and also in a factory setting, but also in the offices, staff in the offices as well. So even the HR was varied. So I really did enjoy this role. So as an HR administrator, my duties would involve obviously a lot of communicating with the employees and also answering their queries, and also the line manager's queries. There was a lot of those, as you can imagine, scanning and filing as well, making sure all the systems were up to date and obviously maintaining those systems. Also, I got involved with taking notes at meetings, so whether that was a disciplinary meeting or an appeal meeting or a grievance meeting, or I also got involved in interviewing, did a lot of interviewing while I was an HR administrator. So lots of things to get involved in. And we also had a new time and attendance system, and it was called Keelio. So I was heavily involved in all of the planning and the implementation of Keelio. And I actually became an expert in Keelio. So I was the person to go to, the troubleshooter, when anybody had any problems with Keelio. So I really enjoyed that part of the role as well. So time went on, and as I say, I did really enjoy the job. There were quite a few ups and downs while I was there, I have to say. But I think that looking back now, these ups and downs helped me to get where I am now. And I had a lot of opportunities. A lot of opportunities were given to me, and I obviously took them. And it helped me to become a more confident person, become a more rounded person, I would say. So, because I realised that I loved HR, I decided to do a qualification in HR. So that's what I did in my spare time. And it took me a year to complete it, and I absolutely loved it. So at the end of the HR qualification, I was thinking about, was I going to go on to do the next qualification, or what was I going to do? I didn't really know at that stage what I was going to do. So I was talking to my tutor at the time, and she said, yes, you definitely should go on and do, another qualification. But it was just depending on which qualification it was going to be. And also, I was beginning to realise that the PA side of the job was not really what I wanted to be doing anymore, which came as a little bit of I want to say surprise, but it wasn't really a surprise because I'd probably known that for quite some time. But that the PA was the job that I was employed to do at this company. So for me to turn around and say, oh, actually, I don't want to do that anymore, that wasn't really going to cut it, was it? So I thought about it for a long time and realised that I would probably have to leave the company. So I thought about whether I could stay on in my role as a PA, but maybe move slightly to the side, and I spoke to the managing director about it, and he did actually have an opportunity for me, but it was more of a training type HR role, which after I'd given it some consideration, I realised that that wasn't really what I wanted to do, and I wanted to focus on more the HR generalist side of HR. And so I decided that I would have to leave the company. So I'd worked there for 3 years, and as I say, I really did enjoy the job. Ups and downs aside, it was a great experience for me, and one that I wouldn't have missed for the world. So I was very upset to leave there. So I started to look around for a job that was either an HR administrator, an HR coordinator, or an HR officer. And what I was looking for was a role that would report to an experienced HR manager, so I could carry on learning, because although I did have quite a lot of experience of HR, now I'd been in the role for 3 years, as I said, and I had stood in as like an HR manager deputy when the HR manager was off, because that was a part-time role. So yes, I did have quite a lot of experience, really. It's to be able to continue learning from an experienced HR manager. So I applied for a job as an HR coordinator, and it was through a recruitment agency, and I got an interview. I went to the interview. The job was advertised as an HR coordinator reporting to a very supportive HR manager. So I thought, great, this sounds absolutely fantastic and right up my street. So I went for the interview, met the managing director and the financial director, and had a really good interview and really good discussion with them, and thought, oh wow, you know, this is a really nice company and I'd really like to work here. Anyway, during the interview, it came out that actually they didn't have an HR manager, and they didn't have an HR department as such. There was a lady from accounts who was covering the HR aspect of things, but there wasn't an HR department set up. So I was a little bit shocked about this, because this was not how the job had been portrayed to me by the recruitment agency. So, but yeah, this is what they said. There wasn't an HR manager, so I would be the HR coordinator in a standalone HR role. So I went away thinking, I'm not going to get this job, because, you know, I've got 3 years of experience, and I've worked in an HR administrator job in the past. But there's bound to be lots of other candidates who have applied for this job with more experience than me. Anyway, much to my surprise, later that day after the interview, I was called by the recruitment agency, and they said, you've got through to the second stage. They really like you. So I was very, very shocked at this point, thinking, oh wow, this is amazing. So anyway, to cut a very long story short, so I went for the second interview, and it was an exercise. So basically it consisted of about 7 or 8 situations. Me as the HR coordinator would have to explain what I would do and what steps I would take to resolve certain situations that were of an HR nature. So I found the exercise fairly straightforward and felt that I'd done reasonably well, but still wasn't really thinking that I was in the running to get the job, because I just imagined that the other candidates that had also gone for the second interview were more experienced than me. So I didn't really think too much of it. Anyway, a couple of days passed by. I mean, I was thinking that I really wanted the job, don't get me wrong, but I sort of didn't try to think about it too much, because I didn't want to be too disappointed. Anyway, a couple of days later, the recruitment agency phoned and said, how do you think you got on in the interviews? And I told them, and they said, well, they love you and they want to offer you the position. So I was so shocked again and overjoyed, obviously, but so shocked. And so obviously I accepted, and the rest is history, as they say. So that is the job that I'm doing. So I joined the company. It's a manufacturing company, and obviously this had a lot to do with me being successful and getting the role, because a lot of my HR experience was in working for a manufacturing company. So that obviously helped. So over 3.5 years ago now, I started working for the company as an HR coordinator. So I basically had to set up the HR department, which involved putting policies and procedures into place, revamping the induction process and making a policy for that, and completely overhauling the appraisals, making sure that everybody knew that came to the company had probation reviews, and setting up a process for that and a policy for that. So there's been a lot of work to do in developing the HR department, and I've absolutely loved it. So I was promoted to HR manager and then took on an assistant as well. So yes, it's been a fantastic time, and I've learned a lot, I've developed a lot, and it's been 3.5 years now. Not sure if I said that. And yeah, it's all going very, very well. But who knows what's going to happen in the future? So we'll have to see where we go from now. But at the moment, it's going really, really well. So that is my story for leaving school and not knowing what the hell I wanted to do, trying out all these jobs and finding out that, you know, a lot of the jobs I really, really did enjoy. Some of them not so much, but in the main, I did enjoy most of them. And all of the trials and tribulations that went along with those positions, and, you know, I learned a lot. And so I just wanted to say really that if you don't know what you want to do when you leave school, even if you don't know what you want to do years later, it's not really a problem. You can always get a job. You know, I found it not particularly hard to get any of the jobs that I have done. Obviously, you've got to put the effort in and learn about the companies, learn about as much about the job as you can, shadow if you can, and just find out a lot. As much information as you possibly can about the role and about the company, and make yourself as presentable as possible. So yeah, that is it for now. This is the end of this series. So next time I will be starting a video on something else. Don't know what. I do hope you've enjoyed this journey. I've really enjoyed it, to be honest. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed it, and I do hope you will give it a like and subscribe to my channel, because it would really help the channel to expand if you could subscribe. So that would mean a lot to me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.